I'm going to try to show you how I use a digital angle finder to set the angle on my turning chisels, such as this one here. This is a 1/2 inch. I have a 40-degree angle on the tip. There's a few things that you'll need to know to make this work. This is 40 degrees here, but you do not set the digital angle finder to 40 degrees, and I'll show you why right now. I currently have the platform set to grind this 40-degree angle that I'm showing you here on this piece of plywood, and I'm using this. It's much easier to see. So what you would do is you would start with a chisel that you know is the proper angle, or you would grind it and then check an angle gauge somewhat like this. And I think everyone would know how to do that. You would come up here, you would adjust your table until you were perfect against this surface that you know is 40 degrees. Well, this one is set at that. And I'm going to start with what I think is probably the most important thing that you need to do in this process. At all times when you're grinding a given tool with this setup, you need to go to the same line every time. This is a useful tip that I learned off of another YouTube video. A fellow Woodturner, Kyler at Woodturner Ky. He's full of all kinds of good tricks, and I don't mind borrowing them from him. So I'm going to slide to that line right there. This is going to be for my bowl gouge, or anything that you're going to grind at 40 degrees actually. So I'm at that line, and the next thing that you need to set, say you've never set this platform, so you want to do it for the very first time, you're going to go up here and you're going to find the existing angle on here. That looks pretty close. Just tweak it down a little bit, just to kind of make sure. Put a little magic marker on the tip there. You can hold it up against the wheel and grind it like that. That's off a little bit. Bring it back down. There, that looks pretty good. Now the next thing you do is you turn on your digital angle finder. I go over here on the rail and I set it on there and make sure that it's set at 0. You can't see it from that side, but it is at 0. So that actually hit at 30 degrees. And if I was setting this up for the very first time and I like that angle, that's what I'm going to go with, 30 degrees. So now you're actually ready to grind it. So I would take my tool and I would write 30 degrees on here to set the platform. I'll go to that line that I've scribed on here on the bottom, and I'm all set. And this is very repeatable. As long as you go to the scribed line on the bar and you set the platform up the way I did, and just tweak the platform until you see 30 degrees. Be sure that you level the digital angle finder prior to doing it, because if it was set at something else before that, this means nothing. This has to be set to your grinder, and I just use the rail that the bar slides in. I use that every time. Okay, so now I have just this, let me zoom out a little bit here. I just have this piece of plywood that I've ground. I've sawed and sanded this angle on that plywood, marked it at 40 degrees. This should go in here, and yes, it is 40 degrees. It lines up perfectly. Now I'm going to show you why it is very important to use that first setting of the angle not the angle, I'm sorry, but you want to use that line that you put on this bar, and you have to slide up to get to there, and I'm on it there, and I've got my 40 degrees. If I forget doing this and I just leave it out here, here's what you're going to get. It's not 40 degrees. Just to really show you. And the farther out you are, the farther off you'll be on your angle. So right there, I think you can see that that's way off. So this wouldn't be anywhere near a 40 degree angle. So be sure to do that first setting down here. Slide it over here, put it on that line right there. Then you're all set and ready to go. Right there we have 40 degrees. This tool will obviously be in the same place, right where it started. So hopefully that's a little help explaining how it works. You may like it, you may not. I've done the same thing with my scraper. I ground this to a negative rake. I've been playing with it. I found that the angle from side to side, the included angle that I'm using is 78 degrees. So that means, and I'm doing the same angle on both sides. So I've got 39 on this side, 39 on that side. And if I wanted to set that up, I'm using a 36 degree angle on the digital finder. So let's see if that worked. I'll just look down this thing, and it's about as close as I could ever get it any other way, that's for sure. If I get to the point where I need to resharpen, then I can set it right there, and the closer you can get to repeating the angle that you have, the longer your tools will last. And I don't grind the top on this until I start losing too much metal up here. It'll just grind away, and then every once in a while you may have to go back, do the top, but you always do the bottom. You grind that to last. That's what puts the burr up on top. I'll show you something else that I have going on here. Maybe you do this, maybe you don't. I'll keep this. I have this little plastic bag here. Inside of that I have two rare earth magnets. As I grind, and this was all created from when I just reground my negative rake scraper. So the magnet's holding it. If I take a container of sorts, whatever you have handy is going to work, and I hold that down in there, and I reach in and I pull the magnets off of the inside. The grindings aren't here anymore. They're inside of this cup. It collects almost everything that falls down. If I put one on each side, it would probably get everything, but it's sure well worth having it, and it collects a lot of those grindings that are hard to pick up. And if for some reason there's the grindings that you don't manage to pick up that way, you can run along here and then just pick those up. Anywhere you see some grindings, you can just sweep them up. It's like vacuuming the things up. What I'll end up doing is I'll put it where I think the grindings are falling, which is usually right between the tool rest and the stone. And they'll come down there, and the magnet will hold itself into position. And it does a nice job of collecting most of those grindings. Now, as long as we're talking about the negative rake scraper, like I say, I've been playing around with the angles, and I didn't have it far enough away from a 90 degree that I didn't like the way it was cutting as much as what I do now, for sure. At the 78 degree total angle, I'll just go ahead and show you how it's cutting. I'm working on a bottom of a bowl that's got some hard maple on it, and let's cut that and see how it works. See if I can stand here out of the way and show you how the new angle I'm using on my negative rake scraper is working. A little awkward standing here, but I think I can do it. If you find anything useful here and it is something you can use, please let me know. If you think it's a ridiculous way of doing it, please let me know. I don't mind. And if you have a better way, please tell me. I'm always willing to learn something new. Thanks for watching.